Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. We are returning to a channel staple. Today we'll be talking about staple cards you need to consider picking up from the first set of Z Series Dawn of the Z Legends. These are going to be cards that are pretty widely applicable depending on the color that you're playing. I definitely chose not to use archetype specific cards. These are cards that no matter what deck you're playing in a given color, for the most part, you can probably make usage of these cards in your color pool. That being said, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. Let's jump right on into this. Alright, so the first and foremost card you're probably going to add to your collection, and luckily it's a common, is Begrudging Allies. This is a 2-drop counterplay. If the battle card being played has an energy cost of 3 or less, send it to the owner's warp instead. Additionally, if your leader's black, send up to 1 battle card from your opponent's drop to their warp, and then permanent if your life's 4 or less, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. This is a generic answer to many floodgates in the game. It doesn't only have to be used on floodgates. You can of course use this on battle cards your opponent is playing that is 3 or less during their own turn, which, as a funny example, is actually Invoker. You can hit Rival Seeker Goku with this, but yeah, this is going to be a really good and efficient counterplay to floodgates on your own turn, especially if your life's 4 or less, to use it for 1 energy. Many colors have their own answers to floodgates. That's all well and good, but this can be used in decks or archetypes or strategies that maybe don't have their own answer. Like if you don't have something that kind of resembles a Resolve Renewed, you can easily play this card and cheaply answer floodgates. So definitely pick it up, add it to your collection. You can play this in just about any deck you have, which is kind of cool. Alright, then we have the Goku and Piccolo Faded Rival combo. I'm genuinely kind of convinced this is going to become the face of green decks going forward. This combo is just so good, and that's mainly for the ability to just like straight up snipe unisons. I will say there's no green deck right now that I would say like turbo generates Z energy. There are some decks that, you know, can maybe generate 1 to 2 Z energy per turn, 2 being like kind of pushing it a little bit. But I still do think this is going to be the green combo going forward because of how easy it is to set up. And what's so cool about this is you can throw a Paraga Super combo in Z Energy and you can put it back into your deck. And as long as you have a shuffle effect, you can actually get your Paraga Super combos back into like your draw rotation, which is kind of cool. But besides that, yeah, Piccolo Jr. just sniping unisons off the board is going to be so good, especially against something pesky like Boo Unison. It honestly doesn't even matter if Piccolo Jr. like successfully enters play or not. They could counterplay this thing and it could die. I don't even really care. As long as I paid 1 and just completely kill their unison, I'm pretty happy about that. So I do think this is an important green package to pick up for sure. Then we have Piccolo Guardian of Earth. Very simple but very good green unison. +1 draw a card has been meta on so many unisons, so why wouldn't you want to pick up the green copy of it? The -1's also really good, and since you are green, you can very easily proc that auto to give this thing +5k. So having this swing for a 20k dual attack is going to be really good. So definitely a green card you're going to want to add to your arsenal if you plan on playing green in the foreseeable future. I wonder if even Cooler will play this. Like, it doesn't necessarily add too much to your whole empower mechanic, but it's just that good of a green unison. Maybe that deck will even play it. Alright, then we have Goku Another World Blitz. So I do think this is going to be a pretty common blue staple. I can't say that every single blue deck ever will definitely play it. That just doesn't seem completely correct. But I do think a lot of blue control decks like SS4 Vegeta, SS3 Reboot are going to have a pretty good time playing this card, especially decks like those that get to 4 energy earlier than most decks, where you have a little bit less time that you need to not put battle cards into the drop. And even if you do have to combo a battle card here or there, you can always throw it into your Z energy, which is still going to keep your drop area clear of battle cards, and that's going to keep Another World Blitz alive. And the nice thing too is like the deck this is printed for, which is obviously the Halo Goku deck, can't play black battle cards, but other blue decks can play Overwhelm. So if you need to in a pinch, you can clear out your drop area and still make this card live. And this card is insane. Draw 1, board removal if you have extra cards in your drop, which a lot of blue decks play a lot of extra cards, and then untap 1 end itself at the end of the turn, kind of acting like a pseudo Boo Unison. So if you're at a point in the game where you have this and Boo Unison set up, you're going to be untapping 2 minimum per turn. That's really strong in my opinion. Then we have Cell Awakening of the Created. Just super staple bluesy battle card. This one's definitely super obvious because it's one of the only bluesy battle cards, especially one of the only ones that's actually like playable. You basically have this, you have Vegito, and you have Mai, which is not a terrible card by any means, but you definitely got to be playing a fair amount of Trunks battle cards to make that card worth the endeavor. But yeah, this card just being a board wiping bomb that hits everything on the board 5 or less. It's going to be really good against your lower to the ground strategies like your U7s, maybe even your SS4 Gogetas, just anything that spams the board with smaller cost battle cards. Incredible blue card that just about every single blue Z deck is going to play in my opinion. All right, now we move on to red. Omega Shenron, Unfeeling Retribution. So admittedly, this card is not seemingly generic right now, but the way it reads, it definitely is. Pay 2 for the activate main, limit 1. If your leader is a red Shadow Dragon or red Z leader and you have 3 or more energy, play this card from your hand. So right now, the only red deck with a Z leader is going to be Red Sin. Okay, that's not true. You could technically play this in red Gogeta, but even then you can't actually cast this card because you have to be tapped out to go into your Z leader anyway, so you never have the energy to actually play this card. So yeah, this is really only playable in Red Sin right now, but we already know that like Red Vegito from I think it's like set 2 is getting a Z leader, and we know for a fact that more red leaders are going to get Z leaders as we progress into Z series. So this is a card you're going to want to have at your arsenal, and let's just say Red Sin doesn't do all that hot in the beginning of this format, which I don't think is going to happen, but it could be the case. This might be a card that ends up being pretty cheap during the first set of Z series and then becomes incredibly expensive later on when it becomes much more applicable in different decks that have red Z leaders. So this card is a very, very good pickup in my opinion. You're going to want to grab it ASAP. Then we have SS4 Gogeta, Powers Connection. So maybe a little less generic than the Sin we even just read, because you have to be playing a red strategy that can make usage of red battle cards in rest mode, or red 1-drop battle cards in rest mode. One of those, or two of those rather, are both the decks coming out in Z series, which is SS4 Gogeta and Red Sin. If you didn't know, this unison is also very good in Red Sin because you can play your Haze or Oceanus 1-drops, and then you can use their activate mains to sacrifice them to give your battle cards either barrier or critical, depending on which one you sacrifice. So this card picks up a lot of value in those decks, but there may be even some other decks where this card can be good. I've heard some people talk about this in Red Crew. I don't know how great playing your 1-drops in rest mode is actually going to be in that deck, but it could still be an option for sure. This does get your leader awakened if you are playing the Spirit Boost Elite Vegeta deck version of Bardock's Crew, so that's definitely an option there, something you're going to want to try out. And again, it's a unison that I think will become better and better as we get more 1-drops that gain value as soon as they're played, rather than having to attack and whatnot. And as long as Broly Crown is an unbanned, unerrated card, this unison just seems insane purely based off that. So, really good card in my opinion. Then we have Rush Attack SSB Vegeta. I mean, I think it's no joke that Red has the best pool of Z battle cards in the game. I still think SSB Vegeta Surmounting the Impossible is the best Z battle card in the game, but Red, as far as like a congregation of Z battle cards goes, has the best pool for sure. Rush Attack SSB Vegeta is the best one that's coming out in the main set. If not the only one that's coming out in the main set, possibly. I don't remember. But still, incredible card. Definitely deserving of a super rare slot. Pick it up for your red decks. You will not regret it. Then we have SSB Goku Evolved Defender getting us into yellow. I will say this time around, yellow doesn't have too many super generic cards, which I mean I think is probably a good thing because yellow is already a color full of the best generic types of cards. But yeah, this is definitely a Z battle card that I just think every single yellow deck is going to play. You're going to want a copy of it. It's really cool that while it is a very expensive version of it, it's a poutine that's accessible whenever you want, basically. And having the ability to lock down a leader, unison, or battle card and prevent it from attacking in the next turn is also really strong. So yeah, this card is just a no-brainer. Definitely, again, worthy of an SR slot. Definitely pick it up if you're a yellow player. Then we have Demon God Truman Salsa Unending Nightmare. So the main reason I'm going to recommend this card is because the activate battle, limit 1 for 2 energy. If you have 3 or more energy and there are 2 or more black battle cards in your combo area, play this card from your warp. So firstly, playing it from the warp is super easy. If you're playing Gogeta Xeno, you'll mill it off the top 5. If you're playing any other black deck, it'll probably end up in your drop area at some point. Maybe you milled it off the top of your deck, then you overroam, and then as long as you combo 2 cards, you can play it. And it's a 35k double strike because of the serving, giving it plus 10k. That's pretty solid there. Again, this is just a generic black card where black is definitely struggling right now. So it might take a couple sets of just like good generic black cards to come out for black to kind of make splashes again. But this is a card that I can see lending to that strategy. So I would recommend picking it up because it is technically generically usable in black decks. Then we have Supreme Kai of Time, Final Battle at Hand. Very simple card, permanent life 4 or less. This card gains blocker, and when you play it, you draw a card. So a draw 1 blocker that is tied to black decks because of the 1 black specified cost. Card solid. I mean, I definitely think that Hatchiak is going to probably play this card, so that's one deck you can slot this in. But if you do find some sort of like black mid-rangey deck, probably not a black aggro deck, but a black mid-rangey, maybe more defensive deck, this is definitely going to be a super solid card. A 1-drop draw card that gains blocker, definitely a high value card. Notice how most cards in the game that draw 1 don't have blocker because it is just that much more added value. Super good pickup. Then we have Dark Broly Heartless Berserker. Honestly, you can pick this up for just about any single deck you're playing. At the very least, this is a free overwhelm that warps any one of your opponent's battle cards. So if you need a cheap form of removal, this is that. And on top of that, this is a 30k swinger, so that's big in and of itself. The pay 2 is tied to a black leader. Play this card from your warp, and obviously this is kind of looked at as Dark Broly support because of the 0 combo power. You do have to factor in the 0 combo power in whatever deck you plan to play this in, but again, if you need that removal, if you need the free big swing, this is a really good overwhelm to play in pretty much any deck, and you don't really have to care about the activate main not being live because in the first place it was free. Then we have SS4 Gogeta Indomitable Might. I do like the fact that this card covers 2 colors. If you're playing a black Sand Leader, if you're playing a red Sand Leader, definitely pick up at least 2 copies of this card. I really don't see a world where you'll ever run more than 3, and a lot of my red decks I'm running 2, but I can see a lot of black decks running 3 because you run the opportunity of milling this card, which you don't want to do, obviously. But if you're still a tried and true Gogeta Xeno player, pick up this card. This is going to breathe a little bit of new life into Gogeta Xeno. Is it going to come back into the meta like crazy? I doubt it, but again, it's still a really good card in a deck like Gogeta Xeno, in a deck like SS4 Goku, and in any of your red decks like Pan, like SS4 Gogeta. This is a super solid card. And then we'll wrap up today's video talking about Android 18 Measureless Strength. Some people think this is just tied to Android 16, some people think this is just tied to Gamma, but realistically it's tied to any blue Android deck. It negates energy exhaust if your leader's a blue Android, so that even applies to the token scheme decks. It just got a decent arrival effect when you play it, get rid of a battle card and a card in your opponent's hand, even though it is a little bit expensive at arrival 3, but in blue, that's not the worst. And then activate main, pitch it, add any blue Android that costs 5 or less from the top 5 to your hand, which just serves as good search material. So again, like any token scheme decks, Gamma, Android 16, this is going to be a super solid card to pick up if you are an Android player. And I know there are diehard Android players out there, so you'll be picking up this card. But yeah, guys, that covers today's video. If you have any other ideas for staple pickups, definitely drop them down in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.